This is the South Carolina Paranormal Research and Investigations Podcast with your hosts, Paul
and Carolyn. We are a ghost hunting group that investigates the Palmetto State.
Yay! We finally got this podcast out, and we really want to thank Joel and Michael from the Night Stalker Podcast Network, because without them, we wouldn't have gotten this out. I didn't know what I was doing. Carolyn, did you know what you were doing?
Absolutely not.
So we would have never gotten it out if it wasn't for them. So we want to give them a huge shout out and thank you for getting us out on the network. There has been a delay getting the second episode out because life.
That darn life.
Yeah, but now we think we got us a schedule and we'll be able to get one out weekly, hopefully, if we can stay on it and things don't keep getting in the way. Because we've tried to record this podcast for what, a month now?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah,
maybe a little longer.
Things keep getting in the way, but we've sat down and we think we've worked out a weekly schedule so that we can get more of them out to you guys more often. Because I know I've had 2 or 3 people tell me that when's the next episode coming out, and I just got a text message from somebody telling me they just watched the Will and Jeffro. They told me they just listened to it.
Oh, nice. You want to tell them what podcast we're on? So just in case.
We're on the Night Stalker Podcast Network, and if you're listening to us, this you can search this in most podcast places. It'll be SCPRAI Podcast. That's what it's found under on just about any place you can get a podcast at. Thanks to Joel and Michael, because once again,
yay!
Because if it wasn't for them, we'd still only be on SoundCloud.
Pretty much.
But anyway, so we're going to get right into the show where we're going to congratulate Brandon, Hank, and Michelle for finally completing their trial periods and becoming full team members. So yay for them too.
Congrats, yay.
And then I know Michelle started, and then her husband got sick, so she had to take a step back. So it took her a little longer than most people to get on the team, but we're glad that her and her husband's been doing better, and she's able to participate in the team again. So.
And Michelle is our English love. She's from England, so.
Yes. She's our foreigner, and we love her.
She's our little friend from across the pond.
So do you want to introduce the next one?
Now we would like to introduce Jenny, who is our new board member. And she has been so awesome, so superb, and we're happy to have her on board. And she was so happy to be nominated. So let's give her a little welcome and congrats. Yay, Jenny!
And she is hilarious, too, and I hope to have her on the podcast, too, to kind of tell her story in the future of some of the ghosts and stuff that she's dealt with since before she was on the team. So I want to have her on and talk about that soon.
Absolutely. I think that'll be fun. Me
too. And she's a ball, especially like you send her a message and then she'll definitely turn it into something that'll make you laugh. Which we were also interviewed Joel and Michael on their podcast, the Paranormal Night Stalker. I was like, damn, she should have been here because we cracked up the whole time on that interview, and she would have made it even more fun.
And that interview is going to be out soon too, right?
I don't know if I think theirs will be out before ours, but it's supposed to be this Friday. But if you want to listen to that interview and laugh at mostly me because I get picked on most of the time, you would just go look for the Night Stalker podcast. Paranormal Night Stalker Podcast is what that's called. And just look for SCPRAI.
It sounds good.
Yup. So when we did our first episode back in October, because once again, we didn't know what we were doing, we talked about our upcoming trip to the Charleston jail. We decided we'll finally get that out there so everybody can listen and hear some history and a little bit about what happened when we were there.
Yes, absolutely.
When we went to the Charleston jail, we actually had before this, as we were planning this, I had a friend approach me, and she was like, "Hey, I have these friends. They're really cool, and they want to do stuff with the paranormal." And I was like, "Can you get them on your team?" And I was like, "Well, right now we're not taking any teammates at the moment, any new teammates, but I could get them in on this trip because we're kind of slow on cases, so we were like, let's go to Charleston jail, so we'll have something to do. And surprisingly, like nobody hardly on the team signed up because everybody was busy, and I guess because we kind of did it short notice too. So we went to Tommy Condon's, and the two girls that we told them they could come join us on this. They met us at Tommy Condon's, which is really good Irish restaurant. If you've never been and you're in the Charleston area, I do suggest it. And
I
it's reasonably
suggested
priced.
too.
It's right there by the market too, where all the shops are, and not too far from Bulldog Tours. So if you like to do any of the paranormal tours in Charleston, it's all right in that area. You can walk to it.
And it was my first time in Charleston, and I absolutely love Charleston.
Oh yeah,
It's so beautiful. The history, just
yeah,
the
because I was trying to
houses.
get you to move to Columbia, and you were like, "Screw Columbia, I'm moving to Charleston."
Right. I mean, how can you not? It's just so beautiful there.
It is beautiful. That I almost moved there over Columbia, but I didn't have it. Like when I moved to Columbia, I didn't have any connections in Charleston then, so it didn't. I say, well, I guess I'll move to Columbia that way. Like I have someone to crash with.
Well, we got a couple connections down there now, so
Yeah.
we got a couple of our teammates are from there, so
Yep.
who knows?
Maybe one day. And Amaria's always telling us we can crash on her couch, so I'm gonna
That's
hold
right.
I'm gonna hold her to that one day.
Absolutely. Anyways, the food's amazing at Tommy Condon, so that's something we recommend when you go, and it's a nice environment in there too.
When you investigate there, you have to wait till midnight because they do all the
Wait,
tours. You
right,
know,
we're
they're not
they
going to
do a
give up that
private
tour.
investigation, so that's when that is.
We had a really good tour guide named Joy. She was awesome, I thought. The
She was
tour was,
really good.
I thought she was really good. My only complaint is I think it went a little long, and that kind of cut down on our investigation time. But other than that, you could tell she loves that building and she loves what she does.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
She gave a lot of history, and she pointed out a lot of stuff too that, some of it was quite embellished, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, all those kind of tour places, they always embellish it and make it sound really good.
Right. But either way, I recommend if you want to go just for the tour, go for the tour because it is part of history. It's part
Hmm.
of, the Southern history and everything. And I'm from the North, which we really don't get into our history too much. That's why I love being down the South because you guys embrace it like crazy.
Hmm. And
And this was our dream, one of our bucket lists to
oh
come
yeah,
to the Charleston jail.
well that's like when I joined the team, that's who I'd always get asked, "Have you ever investigated there?" And I'm like, "No." "Have you ever?" "No." So now I can say, "Yes, I've been there." So that's pretty cool.
Right, right. So, for those who kind of don't know the history of the Charleston jail, what it's most famous for is Lavinia Fisher, who supposedly became the first woman to be a serial killer and to be hanged there. And
Hmm.
according to, I don't want to say folklore or whatever, it was her husband and herself that,
They own the 6 Mile House.
yes.
Yep.
I guess they owned this house and they would get people to stay over and they would rob them
Mm.
and
They would drug
right,
them with tea, with the oleander tea.
yes, and they would rob them and kill them with the tea. Well, I guess how they got found was, I guess, one of the times, and then it was something like in their house they had Lavinia would bring the men the tea. And once they were dead, then they had like this trap door, and her husband would be underneath it to take care of the bodies.
So they'd like drink the tea, they would go to sleep, and then they'd pull a lever, and the bodies, the bed, I think it was the whole bed would drop. I believe I read the other day. The whole
Yeah,
bed would drop down in there, and he would take whatever you had on you, and then dispose of the body.
And how they got caught was this one vagrant that went there ended up not drinking the tea, and she thought that he was dead, so he kind of went down and saw her husband, and somehow he got away, and that's how they got caught.
Hmm. Yeah, he ran back to town. I was trying to see if I had found his name. I saw his name last night when I was looking some stuff up, but I don't see it right. I didn't write it down. But they had the name of the guy. Let's see.
His
Let's see.
name's David Ross.
You got it, David Ross?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's like, whether it's true or not, it's still all remains kind of up in smoke, because according to the legend, it also states, when she was about ready to be hanged, they asked her, what are her last words, and her last words were, if anyone has something to say to the devil, say it now, because I'm about ready to meet him. And then she jumped off.
Okay. All right, we're gonna have to go back and edit some of this because you had a name, but it was not the same person. So, the this guy David Ross was attacked by a gang of people, and he looked to Lavinia to save him. David Ross was. He was
Uh-huh.
attacked by two men and dragged before the gang and was terrorized. Among them was Lavinia Fisher, to whom he looked for help. However, rather than help him, she choked him and then smashed his head through a window. Ross managed to escape and immediately alert the authorities. So the next day, or it doesn't say the next day, it says immediately following this incident, another traveler named John Peoples asked if there was any vacancies in Lavinia's home. She said there was unfortunately no room, but he was welcome to come inside and rest and have some tea. John happened to hate tea and was not wanting to be seen rude. He dumped it when she wasn't looking. She interrogated him for hours and eventually said she discovered that, in fact, they did have room. He then went to bed, and he had felt suspicious about the interrogation and was worried about being robbed, so he decided to sleep in the wooden chair by the door. In the middle of the night, he woke up to a loud sound of the bed collapsing and discovered the Fisher's plan. He jumped out of the window and rode to Charleston to alert the authorities. So that's how they
Okay.
caught.
Okay.
And based on the two accounts, the assailants' family. Based on the two accounts, the assailants were finally identified by name, something that law enforcement had previously lacked. Police were immediately dispatched to the location, and during the ensuing investigation, Lavinia and John were located, along with two other gang members. My question is, though, you just tried to kill somebody. He escapes. He runs away, which the 6 Miles house was located 6 miles north of Charleston.
Right.
So you had time to get out of there before the police got there, but you didn't leave. I don't
That
understand
makes
why
a
they did that.
lot of sense. Unless he was making sure that they wouldn't go anywhere.
I don't know.
So he know that he could keep a watch on him and say, no, they're still in there, or they went that way, or they went
Yeah,
that way,
or maybe they
because
thought they had a good excuse before the police got there. That's the one part of the story that I don't make that doesn't make sense to me because the person's gonna go rat you out. You just tried to kill them or something weird. He knew something weird just happened.
right,
He may have not understood at the time, but he freaked out. He ran away, but you're still there by the time the police come. That's the part of the story that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And maybe I should just do some more digging and see if there was a reason. But
well, so what had happened was is he ran away, got the police, and then went back.
yeah, he ran away, and because there was two attacks around the same time, apparently they didn't have any names. One of the David Ross didn't have their names,
Right.
but I guess they were able to figure it out after um what's his name, John Peebles came by. I guess they were able to figure out.
Okay.
So that's
Either way.
just the part of the story that makes any sense to me, because if it was me, I know this probably makes me sound crazy, but if it was me and I tried to kill somebody, I wouldn't hang around. Especially back then, you could have been, on your horse and buggy in another town, and no one would even know your name because they didn't have social media. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so that's part of it doesn't make any sense to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Unless they're trying to scramble away, trying to gather stuff up, and
Maybe all the
getting
stuff they've
ready to
stolen
leave.
over the years.
Right, getting ready to leave, but the cops got there before they could.
Yeah. Hmm. But anyway,
So,
it's
okay.
back then they execute people pretty fast too, compared
Right,
to
right,
nowadays, because it took nearly a full year between the time of arrest and their execution.
right.
Nowadays it's what, 10 years or more, sometimes longer.
They could spend their whole time while they're in incarceration on death row waiting to be executed,
Yeah.
which is a whole other rant. But either way, that's pretty much why Charleston jail is most famous for, is because of Lavinia Fisher. Because she was the first serial killer, which I'm pretty sure she wasn't, but this is probably the first documented case of a woman serial killer and the first one to get hanged.
Yeah, I was about to say probably the first one to be executed, because probably back then you were considered more property back then than you did something bad, they probably were just like, hey, keep her in check.
And in this one, also the fascinating thing about this one, which, if you remember, that way back when, if a woman was still married, she could not get hung. So that's why they killed her husband first.
Hmm.
Because once they killed her husband, she became a widow, therefore no longer married. So they were able to hang her.
Hmm. So apparently they pled not guilty, which I don't know how you have a trap door in your house for bodies to fall through, and then, or say I'm going to plead not guilty. At that point, you should just be like, yeah, I did it.
People to this day still say they're not guilty when they have cameras on them, and
Yeah, there's a
blank,
in the bedroom. Yeah, there's a trap door in the bedroom for bodies to fall through, but we didn't do it.
right. That's for something else.
Yeah.
That's for putting our laundry down there.
But did you know they're co-conspirators? So the people in their gang, they were released on bail.
Of course they were.
So I don't even know. They reject. I know during the plea, they rejected their pleas of innocence of highway robbery and capital offense.
Oh, it just makes no sense.
They were actually granted an appeal, it says, but it obviously didn't work. During this time, they actually escaped. I read this too the other day. They actually escaped, but only John was able to get out, Lavinia Fisher's husband.
Right.
And so, because she couldn't get out, he allowed himself to be captured again. So I guess he was loyal to her. And
To an extent.
I know Joy said in the thing that she thinks the whole thing was hyped up and a lot of it was pinned on Lavinia because they would figured she'd get away with it because she was a woman.
Right.
And that Joy believes that Lavinia is actually more innocent in it than what history and legends have told of her. But I do still, even though I don't believe she actually said this, I still think this is the coolest part of her legend. That, right when they hung her husband 1 minute before they hung her, because back then you couldn't execute a married woman.
Right.
So they hung. I think right before they hung him, she looks to the crowd and said, or allegedly,
Right.
said, "Does anybody have a message for the devil? For I will be dining with him tonight."
Right.
Which I think
That's similar to what I said.
I still think that line's. Yeah, I don't know if she actually said it or not, but that's still pretty badass.
Absolutely. She's taking her hanging in stride.
Yeah. It
See,
just
yeah,
makes
I got this.
yeah, it might just be tall tale, but it makes her it seem very badass.
Right. Absolutely.
So
Either
let's
way, it's a cool place to go.
it is really cool. So we kind of told the story of the most famous person there. So do you want to start with giving how everything went when we get there? I'll let you start.
Okay, when we first got, we had to wait a little bit because they were doing a tour when we got there. So what we did was just walk around the building, and even just walking around the building, it's so massive and gives off this creepy vibe. But in the same aspect, it's so amazing, and you're just wanting to go in there and see what it entitles.
Mm.
So, they finally get done with an investigation or their group tours. And
Oh,
while we're out there, I guess one of the members in the group started breaking down, um, because she said in this one area she was just got like all of this motion, so she kind of broke down because of it.
oh, and I think the tour guides were telling people we were coming too because I got stopped. When I went to go tell Brandy and Melanie where to park, I got stopped.
Right.
And they were like, "Are you the people that are investigating tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I think the guy was just a little drunk. 'Cause you weren't, were you weren't with me.
No, I wasn't with you at that time, but
I think it was me
we
and
had,
Tor.
we after I think before or after we ate. It was after we ate, we actually walked the building during the day
Yeah.
and got some pictures, and we were stopped then too, asking, if we were going to investigate tonight, and we're like, yeah, we're doing it from midnight to 4 a.m., and they thought that that was pretty cool.
And
So,
I have done tours of the building twice before. Once I went with somebody, and then another friend was like, "I want to go, take me back." So like a year later, I think it was a year later, I did the tour again. You see a whole lot more of that build. It might be different now that the college is not in there, because there used to
right,
be a college in there that learned how to fix up all the old architecture in Charleston. Because after Hurricane Hugo, there was nobody down there that knew how to fix the stuff down there. But
right.
they've since moved out or closed up. I'm not exactly sure what they've done. But you see more investigating it than you do on the tour because, like, when you did the tour, you did not see the warden's quarters at all. They didn't show you any of that.
And that was the warden's corners was quite interesting because when we did the tour, she made us knock before we go in there because the lady, the wife of the
Warden.
warden, was very proper, and you just don't barge into her house. You have to knock, say, "Hey, we're coming in." And also, according to the our tour guide, men are not allowed to wear hats as you go in there.
And of course, what did I do? I forgot when we were setting up and walked in with my head
Exactly.
up. And you're in the other room where we were setting up base camp. You're in the other room. You're like, "Paul, your hat." And I was like, "Crap!" Just took it off and threw it out the window.
Because we are not about to make her mad. We want a nice, peaceful, very nice investigation. We don't want no disrespect, no nothing, because it was their home, and it still may be their home according to them. Who knows? But in the same aspect, I'm not about to disrespect or be rude to pretty much someone's house that we're going into, whether they live there or not.
That brings me to another point. How many places have probably like banned people like us from investigating because someone's gone in and intentionally checked something off or didn't respect the property? We know of a group that's done that. I'm not going to mention their names, but they've gotten
Right,
pretty much everyone banned from this one area in Camden.
right. And a lot of them will say, please don't do that because you guys leave, but we still have to stay here.
Mm.
And I respect that and understand it very much, because if you go in there and, you may drum up something where, they've been used to just nice people coming in, and be like, all right, we got you. And then these so-called abusive or,
Mm.
those that come in full force, say, hey, come on, that would just be like, oh no, this ain't happening. So
I can't
we were like,
try to be respectful. I just can't.
yes,
I can't.
yes.
I How many places like let's take example Bull Street. We would love to go into Bull Street,
Oh, the
but how
famous
many
Bull
people?
Street.
Yeah, how many people trespass into Bull Street or spray paint in places like that and don't respect the property? And that's how you get people like us who would want to go in with permission and respect the property. How many
Right.
people does that stop people like us from being able to go into places like that?
Exactly. And people don't understand that's our history. Please don't defile and, disrespect our history just because you want to be a jerk.
Hmm.
And although, we don't like these paranormal shows that are on there because they go a little overboard, but going into their houses and when they go into these buildings and we see all the graffiti and how it's like so disrespected, it it irks me to no extent because that's our history. That's something that has been done in the past, and when you stop and think about it, it's like such and such person was here.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that also brings me to another thing I wanted to bring up earlier about the with the Charleston jail was last night I got curious. I was like, well, I wonder where the 6 Mile House was,
Hmm.
or what's there now. So I was only able to find like two articles, and they both mentioned one of them mentioned the street, and then one of them actually mentioned the name of the building. So I made verified that they were the same place. So
Right.
apparently, what stands at Lavinia Fisher's old home is now an abandoned naval hospital in Charleston, and
Right.
there's talks of demolishing it. When I last looked, and I think the last article I saw was in November, where they had tore some stuff down, but they had not torn that down. But can you imagine
Right.
how much activity is probably out there, not just from Lavinia Fisher and her husband killing those people, but people who had died in that hospital? There's
Oh,
got to be a lot of
absolutely.
stuff out there. And I'd love to go out there too, but once again, no trespassing.
Like a smorgasbord of just, restless spirits and, could be, as some say, residual, of
Yeah.
coming in and out. It's hard to say. But, when you stop and think about it, that's our history too.
Hmm.
Of all the ones that have been there that have gone through wars, been, there for some reason or another.
Hmm. It's a cool place.
So
Charleston's got a
it
lot of
really,
cool places.
which I want to do more and more investigations and just go
I'd
there
like to go
just
back
for
to the
the
Charleston stuff.
absolutely.
We might have to go do that one. Go back again next fall. Because I know we usually do like a one team trip out of state a year, and we kind of try to do one that's local. We can always go back
Right,
there.
but we can go back there anytime because it's just kind of, you know, it's really not that expensive
Mm.
and it's like right in our neighborhood, so we can kind of just go anytime.
Yeah.
And but for those that would like to go, I highly recommend it because it is such history and it's a really cool building to be in.
Hmm. And then okay, so we went there. We got set up. Um, I got no EVPs. I was highly disappointed.
I am so surprised too that we didn't get no EVPs. I
Now,
am really, really surprised on that.
Brandy and Melody just recently gave me their recorder, and there's some stuff on there they wanted me to check out, but I haven't even had time to sit down and go through theirs yet. But you didn't get any. Well, how many people on the team? There were 6 people, and there was 4 of us on the team. None of us got any EVPs. The building was still cool, and that's why I would investigate it again. What else? We did get one of our motion lights to go off. So we had a motion light we set off, or put out, not set off. But we put it out and had a camera pointed at it, and it went off, and there was nothing in the room. And then
Yes.
another camera I had it pointing at a REM pod or something, and that didn't go off. But then one of their motion lights, because they have motion lights in the walls for their tour,
Right.
and that went off. So we did get that. That was pretty cool.
Because actually, you guys were downstairs, and where we were, this was actually in the place where Lavinia Fisher was put in. Where this motion sensor went off, and me and another investigator were actually right across the hall looking at the DVR, and we were watching it, and the motion light went off. There's nobody in there. There's no one around there to make it go off. And you have to literally get right up on that motion light for it to go off.
Yeah, because the first one that went off was the jail's motion light, right? And y'all were in that rooms in the whatever that base area next to the door to the warden's room, and you were, I think, a floor above where the motion light went off. And that's the only time it went off all night, because somebody was like, well, maybe it was y'all walking through there, but I was like, we walked through there how many times that night, and it never went off. It just went that one time. So I can't explain it. And then the Lavinia one, I think we all, because throughout the night we'd investigate together, and then we'd break off in little groups. And I think we were all together. No, I think most of us were together, but you and Tori were watching the cameras and saw the one in Lavinia Fisher's.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we were like, what is going on? So that's when I went ahead and told you, hey, the motion light just went off in Lavinia's room. So we got up and looked in there, and there's nobody in there. And you guys are actually downstairs.
Yeah, I knew we were. Okay, I think we were down there where they used to wash the lice off of people.
Yes.
in that area.
You guys are nowhere around, and we are actually right across the hall, and these are cement walls, so...
Yeah, and the way the doors are set up, too, they don't line up. So it's not like you walk out you walk out into the hallway, there's another door in front of you. It's not like that. They're like a couple feet down that way, so there's no way. And it didn't happen any other time that night either when we were coming in and out of there. Once again, it was that time. So we can't explain why those went off the way they did. Right.
So that was actually pretty interesting. That was like, whoa! Like, no way. And then, this was actually during our walkthrough when I swear she closed these windows, Paul, and that door opened. I don't care. The door started closing.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah. I had to turn my fan on. It's hot in here. It's February 5th, and it was almost 80 degrees. Was it almost 80 degrees today?
I was like 70 in the lower 70s, I think.
I know they're saying in Columbia. I think it's Thursday. It's gonna be 80 degrees Thursday.
Well, you're lower than I am too. So.
Yeah. Oh, now it's gonna be 81 on Thursday.
Oh my damn.
Well, you know me. I don't like hot weather anyway. But this is dealable. I'd much rather paranormal investigate in the cold than over the heat.
Yes.
Especially someplace like the Charleston jail where you know it's gonna be hot.
And it was a little chilly in there, but it was more colder outside than it was inside. And it was nice inside. It wasn't too cold, but yet it wasn't freezing.
Mm-hmm. And so I was just looking at a list earlier too of people who, I guess, kind of famous people who were also executed there. Did she tell us about Denmark Vesey? Because I don't remember this. It was somebody who was he tried to start a slave revolt and he was executed.
I didn't hear about that when we went through.
No, I don't remember that either. But I know she was telling us about. She told us about a small slave child that got accused of doing something and was executed too. Remember, because she said allowed to play. They let him play with the warden's children.
Yes.
And
He was what, 9 or 10 or something like that?
yeah, she was young. I know
Yeah.
she was like, oh, one of the things I think I was able to debunk there that they claim was that they get a lot of EMF on that stairwell going up,
Yes,
stay
yes.
up and down, and I believe it's that light sitting right there because I had it going off. It's like, oh, okay, it's kind of going off, and then I looked at the light, and I just followed the EMF straight up to the light, and it was going up higher. I was like, okay, well that explains that. People aren't checking this light, and they're claiming that there's something running up and down these stairs.
But in the same aspect, on them stairs, we saw them little tiny handprints.
That was weird. Did anybody take a
That
picture of that? I
um
took a picture of it. We should have took
I
a
think
picture
I
of it.
got a picture of it. I got to look on my camera because I think I
Because
took
we
a picture of
didn't notice
it.
that during the tour, those spiral staircases that go to the warden's quarters. We didn't
Right,
notice that when all of us were going up, and it looks like someone kind of climbed up the steps, like you know how kids
like
climb up steps.
right. You know, when the kids climb up, they'll put their hands up on the top and then they'll walk up them.
Yeah.
That's what it was because, like you said, when we had actually done our tour there, we would have noticed them
And
for sure.
I even said something to Joy because, like I said, I've done the tour twice. I said when I did the tour, before, they don't take you up these flights of steps. They take you up the actual jail because you didn't see the warden's quarters. So you went
Right.
up the other steps to go up and down. You didn't go up those, but she took us up those for the tour. We're allowed to use those for, I mean, not for the tour, but for, the private investigation. So we walked up and down those and didn't notice it until later on that night.
Because we would have said something. We'd be like, oh, check out these little fingerprints, but it was towards the end of the night. We're like, um, these weren't here before.
Yeah.
So that was really, really interesting. And they were little tiny fingerprints and a little tiny hand. There was like maybe one handprint, but all the rest were like as the fingers that just went up. It's just
Yeah.
the
I mean,
fingerprints.
that's also where that staircase led to that room where they had all the bones in the box.
Yes.
And they were like, the scientists have said that these are animal bones, but we have psychics that come in and say that they're human. And I'm like, I'm more likely to believe in the scientists who actually ran a test on it. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those people that's going to like say psychics don't exist or sensitive because I think they do. I just don't think they're as prevalent as some people make them out to be.
Right, right.
Um, I think there's people who say they are for attention and fame and all that stuff. But we're not going to get all into that tonight. But I'm going to follow what the science says over two or three psychics. You know what I mean?
Right, right. I'm with you on that one. And just being in the areas where, excuse me, where they held these people, and we had actually went in this one room where there are no windows whatsoever.
Oh yeah, I remember that room.
And we just went in there, we shut off all the lights, we got nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing in there, no feeling, no nothing. But it was so dark. So dark.
I know the last tour I went in. The first one, I don't think they took us in there. Maybe they switch it up to keep it fresh for them, the tour people, so they're not talking about the same stuff or doing the same stuff over and over again. But I know the last time I did the tour before we did the investigation, they took us in that dark room and they shut the door and there's everybody in there and they're telling some story about somebody using a Ouija board in there or something. I can't remember. And the dude's got like the guy had a mag light and he had turned it off. He drops the mag light in the dark, and I said some curse word really loud, and there was someone on the tour. She's like, "Watch your mouth." I was like, "You better be glad it's dark, woman, and I can't see you."
Right. But I don't care who you are, something happens, curse words are going to come out your mouth.
Yeah.
Because of such a startlement. But we investigated the whole jail, and it was so amazing. And I want to go back. I really do.
Well, you're
We
the
didn't
team
get a
trip.
lot.
You're the team trip coordinator. I'm going to need you to get on that.
Yes, I'll get right on it. We'll have to do a pop-up jail visit.
Hey, I'm cool with it. We are picking up in cases again, though, so you might
Yes.
start planning that out in advance. Because for some reason we had to drop we were able to do that just because it dropped off for some reason. But we're slowly picking back up again as usual. But it kind of always slows down around Christmas time because I think people are going out of town, and
Right.
so
What
sometimes.
I
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, didn't
Well, I
mean
was
to
gonna say,
interrupt you.
I know other people say, oh, people do stupid stuff like Ouija boards and stuff like that in October, and then they call us in November. I feel like they call us down here more in January.
Absolutely. Because I know one thing at the Charleston jail I was bummed about is they took down the gallows.
Yeah, because I believe there was one years ago, I believe, when I did the tour, but I can't even tell you how many years ago that was. Probably 5 years. I was last there 4 or 5 years. Because I was still living in Columbia. I wasn't living out in Lexington.
That I'm not sure of. This is my first
Well,
time ever being there, so I don't really know too much. But I was a little bummed that they took
but
it
yeah, I believe
down.
they had a gallows.
Yeah,
Yeah, it may have just. It's probably because it got old and rotted, and they didn't want to replace it.
understandable.
Well, it's like at the Crime and Punishment Museum, they had that little stockade? Is it called the stockade where they just stick you in there, and so everybody can come out and pick on you?
Yeah, yeah.
So they uh that one was basically falling apart when I was like, oh, we could take pictures in this, and I went and I stuck my head and my arms through it, and I was like, and I realized that it wasn't all connected, and I was like, I'm glad I didn't lean forward or I broke my neck.
Right, right, right. Yeah, we didn't need that happening.
No, I
That
don't
was
think
a
I
cool
would want to
place
go to
as
a
well, but that's
hospital
another.
anywhere. I don't think I would want to go to a hospital anywhere near there.
Yeah, the Crime and Punishment Museum is another place I would like to go back to, and we'll do another segment on our
Adventure.
experiences there.
I feel like if we go back there though, if we have more than like 8 people next time, we just need to be like, we're going this weekend. This group of people's going that weekend because there was too many people crammed in there.
It really was, but
Yeah.
it was still for our
We still
first
made
time
it
there.
work. Just like
Yeah,
we made the Chester jail work, there was kind of too many people for that too. But we were like, okay, the first group goes from 9 to midnight, and the other one goes from midnight to 3.
so we've been to 3, 4 jails this year.
We investigated 3 jails, and we were able to urban explore the jail in Beaufort, but we had permission.
Right. The only you and I got to go to the
Yes,
Beaufort
we're
jail.
probably the only people that actually have permission because people go in there all the time. Because
Right,
she even said I can come here and lock the door and come back in a week and the door is open. So.
right, right. But for the Charleston jail, we didn't really get a lot of evidence, and
Oh,
pretty much the light was it. And when that door closed on me, I'm sorry, I freaked out
the,
because
the
how can you
tapping
not?
the tapping we started hearing, that was interesting. I don't know if it
Yeah,
was normal or not, but it was very interesting when we asked if it could do louder. It got louder.
right.
I'm curious of if that was paranormal or not because I can't debunk it. I mean, because of it was in the ceiling, I can't get into the ceiling. We're not allowed up. That little spot where she said they believe the criminally insane were held.
Right, right.
So you could see the opening, but you can't get up there. So we heard tapping up there, but I
And
can't
that's
say it's paranormal or not because I wasn't able to get up there to check it out.
right, and that's the room I was just like really uncomfortable in. Out of the whole jail, that's the only room that I was just no, I didn't want to be in that room. It was just such a weird room.
I hear you.
But in the same place where we had Lavinia Fitcher's encounter was the place where I saw the Shadow Man.
Uh-huh.
And um I had my back up against the back of the wall so I could see the door in front of me, and you guys are on each side. Some are sitting, some are standing, and I have you guys in my vision, and I look out towards the door and I see a shadow walk right by. But what was so weird is the shadow went from the middle of the door, walked from left to right.
Oh, so okay, so it was standing in
You know how you
the
can
saw it.
see
So,
right through the door to the wall?
yeah.
You had the door. Well, it didn't just walk from the left of the door all the way to the right. It actually, I don't want to use this word, but it like manifested in the middle of the doorway and walked left to right.
Huh. Okay, so
It didn't walk the whole
it
distance.
walked towards the back of the jail.
Yeah.
Okay. Where there was that other staircase where she was like, "Don't use this staircase, you will die."
Yeah. Exactly. And
Okay.
the minute I saw that, I was like, first of all, I was like, did I just see that?
Mm.
And it was just as plain as day. You could see the head, the shoulders, and just walking nonchalantly, like, I don't know if it could have been a guard just walking along checking,
Mm.
or if it could have been an inmate. I'm not really sure, but I know what I saw, and that's when I said to you guys, I'm like, I just saw a shadow man. And that's
Mm.
when you guys had went out to make sure that nobody walked by, and
Yeah, because
when
Joy was still in the building, but she stayed downstairs and out of our way.
right.
I
But
don't think
I would
she
have
ever
seen
came
her
out of that
walk by.
room.
That's the thing.
Huh?
I would have seen her walk
Yeah,
by.
you would have probably been able to tell it was her
Right.
anyway, and she probably would have announced herself.
Right. But there was nothing. And she would have manifested in the middle of the doorway and
Yeah,
walked.
that's true. Not unless she knows how to teleport, and if she does, I'm mad because she's keeping that
I
secret.
know, right?
And I hate driving. I've already basically put it out there to the team. I don't want to drive to the next team trip. Someone needs to drive me.
Yes, yes. I'm excited about our next team trip too.
Me
So
too. You know what we need to do? We need to record at that place. Like we need to do a podcast while we're there, and
we will
just
definitely podcast while we're there.
just to see if we get like an EVP while we're talking about the place. That would be
You
really
may never know. You may never know with our microphone set up,
cool.
and us just talking, who knows what we'll get.
I just think that'd be really cool, especially if you're talking about the place and if you're talking about like a certain like spirit that's there, and then you get an EVP about it. That'd be
Right.
pretty cool. So yeah, I want to experiment with that.
But as far as the jail, it was all like personal experiences we got. The only evidence that we did get was the light coming on, and that was it. But I
Well,
think, maybe next time, once we take tell the tour, like, we don't need the tour because we've already been
yeah.
here, we
If
might
like if
be
we
able
have
to get up
people
early.
who go with us, teammates that go with us next time that didn't go, we can be like, okay, y'all take the tour. We're gonna
Right.
set this thing up. So when you're done, bam, bam, everything's ready to go. Because
Absolutely, absolutely.
that's my only complaint was that tour took too long in my eyes. Like,
Right.
and then we had to set up. So you were there for 4 hours. So basically, we lost an hour, probably like an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it was an hour for the tour and 30 minutes to set up, and then we maybe actually been longer. May have lost longer than that because then we had to take down too. And I think we stopped like, and usually pack up is faster than set up usually.
And I
Uh,
think she let us go over just a little bit, not
so,
much.
yeah. And that's no complaint against her. She's just very passionate about that place, and she knows where everything is, and she wants to tell everybody what happens. And that's my only gripe, and that's nothing against Joy because I think she was awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because like we were already talking when we left. I said, okay, next time we come, me and you'll set up. Everybody else can do the tour.
But it's very informational when she does it. So you do get like a full tour from her, and it is, I would recommend, taking the tour before you go do the investigation.
Oh yeah, and I think the tour is pretty cheap too. I believe I actually have Joy's
Yeah.
sitting right here too. In that it's kind of funny, sitting right here on my desk that she gave us. Um, but It's just a cool build. Even the history, even if you're not really into paranormal, if you really just like history, the history of the place, it's pretty awesome.
Yes, and they give tours throughout the day. So, and if you're an avid paranormal, I recommend doing a private investigation.
Oh yeah. And I would suggest if anybody wants to do the tour or an investigation that you do it quickly because there are talks of turning the top two floors into office space. So, and they would only get the bottom floor, I think she said, and they would kind of turn it into a museum or something. She said if they did that, but I would go like as soon as you possibly could to do this tour because. But she said they were supposed to start last January doing that, and they hadn't even started yet, and it's a year later. I would go right away. You get a chance, go.
Yes, very much. I think they're going to be around for a little bit because, when we went, there was quite a bit of people there. And, when we went during the day, they were doing guided tours, those that are in the carriages, and they talk about the building too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But the building itself, that's a lot of stuff that's going on here nowadays. Is people are wanting to take these old buildings and turn them into something else, which is great if they actually do it. But I've seen a lot of places here lately. They're like, oh, they're going to demolish this place because someone bought it and they were going to fix it up, but then they found out it would cost them way too much money to do it.
That's what makes me so mad is destroying these old buildings and not preserving them.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a good thing that they are going to turn it into office space and not tear it down, so the building is still there. But it's to me, you kind of lose some of its charm when you do that to certain buildings. But I would much rather.
Right.
But you're still making. You can't tell me they're not making money off that jail. So I don't understand why the owner of the building, because I guess he subleases to Bulldog Tours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why he wants to do that because they're making money.
Right, right.
He's seeing dollar signs and is wanting to make more money so he could charge them rent on the top floor and then have Bulldog Tours do the tours on the bottom floor. So that's two sources of income. I guess since the college has moved out, he's wanting to make up for that money he's not getting from the college anymore.
But the thing is, if they turn that top floor into office buildings, that's where a lot of the history is as well.
And that's where a lot of the activity is.
Right.
I would like to see
And,
if you could find someone who used to be one of the college students in there and talk to them, have them on the podcast. That'd be probably pretty cool. So if anybody's out there listening, if you were a former student and you would like to talk about any experiences you had while you were there, shoot me an email at scpraipodcast, all one word, at gmail.com, and I'd like to hear from you.
absolutely, because that would be pretty cool to get someone that's, been in there and maybe had an experience.
Mm. Oh, which I didn't tell you this earlier. I was talking to Michael. I was talking to Michael. I was like, "Oh," and telling him like how our dream is to get into Bull Street, and he was like, years ago when he was a nurse, he actually took a patient there.
What?
Yeah, when it was still open. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Still, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he was telling me where he was at though it was really dark and there was like two really big guards.
Guards.
But yes, so yeah, if we haven't already said, which I'm pretty sure we have, if you can get us in the Bull Street, please email me at scprai, all one word, podcast at gmail.com.
I don't care. We will say it until we can get in there.
We're
Fingers crossed.
Until somebody can get us in there.
We don't want to just look at the building.
Yeah, because I just drive by and drool right now. So, which I haven't drove by since the idiot caught it on fire a few weeks ago. So I want to see if you can actually tell where the fire damage is from the road. I haven't been out there.
I guess they're starting to tear down some of them buildings now.
Well, they've tore a couple down, but some of them out there they've said they can fix up. So they're doing some of that too, but they're also adding new buildings too. They're building townhomes out there too.
See, history going.
I think if you can fix it up and it not be a danger to people, you should do it. Honestly, even though I know that, I know that I think it's the county. It's some branch of government. I'm not sure. Was giving tax credits to certain people who fixed up abandoned buildings. So I know of one where there's beer brewery. I'm probably saying that word wrong. Where they make beer.
Yeah. Pure distillery.
Yeah, just that works. So there's one small building that someone, I guess they got that tax credit and they fixed it up. And some of those buildings out there around Bull Street, they were doing that too. But there's not a whole lot of people out there still.
Huh.
I need to drive out there and see what all has moved out there in the last couple months, if anything. But I just hope whoever, since that fire, they don't try to use it as an excuse to tear down the Babcock building. Because if they do, I'm going to be mad as hell.
Absolutely. I know there's a few places in Columbia we need to investigate as well.
Well, I would love to also do more research on the Third Eye Man in the catacombs.
Yes.
So if anybody actually knows a way into the catacombs where I won't get arrested, you can also email me at scpraipodcast@gmail.com.
I gotta plug it.
Yeah. If you can get me legal permission, I would like to hear from you too.
We're good with it.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to get arrested. Like we want to do it legit. So if you have a connection, let me know.
Absolutely.
So you got anything else you want to talk about, Carolyn? Anything else to do with the Charleston jail? Oh, we didn't talk about Animal, which was supposed to be the child that crawls around.
It wasn't a child. It was a grown man.
Is it a grown man? I can't remember. Hold on.
Yeah, it was a grown man.
We tried to find Animal, but I don't think he was interested enough.
That's when we were down in the bottom area where the kitchen and all that is. There's a hallway.
Solitary confinement is down there too.
Yes. And we had set up the what do you call that thing? I'm like drawing a blank here.
The plasma ball?
The plasma ball, yes.
Yeah, just
the plasma ball to see if you could touch it. We didn't have anything.
And that gives off a lot of EMF too, so I was hoping it maybe might give him a boost of energy, but it did not work.
No, we didn't get nothing in there.
No. It still was a cool place. Like I said, I would totally go back, even though we have lack of evidence. All right, let's see. I was trying to see if anybody had any information on Animal, but I don't see any information on him online. I'd probably have to contact.
I wonder if that's just like a personal.
That might be a personal thing of Joyce, because I don't see anything. I don't see anything mentioned, no articles or anything mentioning of him online. But she said she was writing a book too.
Right. So about her experiences.
She gets her book done. Maybe we can call her, ask her if she wants to be interviewed for promotion of her book.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, anything else coming from before we wrap up?
The Charleston jail, we really didn't, we had just those personal experiences in that, but all in all, excuse me, it was a really cool place to go. And so if we have someone say, hey, did you guys go here? We can say, yes, we did. And we will be going back.
Yeah, it may have just got the motion lights, but I think that was pretty cool.
and
I still have to go through. Melody.
Excuse me.
I still have to go through Brandy and Melody's voice recorder they gave me. I just haven't had time. And then we got a case coming up this Saturday. Either you or me, one's leading it. Have we figured out who's doing that yet?
No, we haven't.
We'll get to it. Do you want me to call the client tomorrow, or and I can just verify?
I don't normally call till Thursday.
I usually do Wednesday, but I'll wait for Thursday.
I call on Thursdays.
I usually try to do Wednesday because if I forget Wednesday, I still have Thursday.
Nope, I do Thursday.
I've only forgotten one time, and it was like Thursday, and I was about to get in bed. I was like, crap. So now I'm like, okay, I need to do it Wednesday so I don't forget. Alrighty. If anyone, I guess we're going to wrap it up, but if you don't have anything else, it's either going to be Melanie or Jenny on the next podcast. It just depends on Melanie's availability, because I'm just going to try and get her. She might have to go to Nashville, she said, and she won't know until tomorrow. So coming up, it's going to be one of the two of them. It'll be a surprise.
And Melanie is a former client. Now she's a member.
Yep. She joined us, I think, just a few weeks after they got done investigating her house. So.
Yep.
And she still has a little bit of stuff going on, but I think I gave her some pointers the other day, and I think it's finally calmed down some. So we're supposed to go back maybe in March, but if it's quiet, I'm going to tell her let's not do that.
Right.
Alrighty, so my name's Paul.
My name's Carolyn.
And we're signing off. We thank you for listening, and if you can, just subscribe to us wherever you're possible. Radio Public is probably the best app for podcasts, so go to that app. I really like that app, and subscribe and listen to us there. Or Apple. I can't even give you the whole list. Like Joel has a whole list of things, and I'll forget. I know I'm going to forget half of them, but it's iTunes Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, Google Play. You can listen to us on Alexa. All you have to do is say Alexa and play SCPRAI podcast.
Woohoo!
Spreaker. And I can't remember any of the other ones right off the top of my head. I'm going to have to get a list from him. I think I emailed him the other day. I was like, can I get a list of everywhere we are? And he told me the main ones, and then he'd give the rest of them to me, but he hadn't gotten them to me since I recorded this.
Either way, we're pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, you can find us anywhere. And we once again, we want to thank Joel and Michael at the Night Stalker podcast network for having us on here, so we don't have to figure out how to put podcasts on apps.
Yes.
It's a big load off. Anyway, thank y'all, and we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see you in a week, because we're trying to go weekly. Bear with us. We know it's been over a month probably now, or almost a month. Yeah, because it'll probably be before we come out since the last one. But we are trying to go weekly. Just stick with us as we get through the bumps.
And try to get these out as much as possible to keep you guys up to date on, where we're going, what we're doing, and we'd like to.
Doesn't keep getting in the way. It'll be weekly.
Yeah, and we'd like to get each of our team members on here so you guys can get to know more of our team members and see what got them into it, and what their fascination is.
Yep. Oh, and also, if you would like to be on the podcast, if you're a former client, or if you are just like a local historian or author or anybody, if you would like to be on the podcast, please also email us at scpraipodcast@gmail.com. All one word.
Or if you might have had a personal experience yourself and you want to talk to us about it and share your experience.
Yes. Or questions, if you have questions. Maybe if we get enough questions one day, we can. I might email them back, but we can also maybe do like a listeners' questions podcast too.
That sounds good.
If you have any questions that you want to ask us or know stuff about, team related or paranormal related, we will read those and get back to you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank y'all, and goodbye.
Yep, thank you. See ya. Bye-bye.
This is the South Carolina Paranormal Research and Investigations Podcast with your host, Paul
and Carolyn. We are a ghost hunting group that investigates the Palmetto State.